Well, I tell y'all that now there's one more thing I want to come to show. Taking care of these things on the little Cardinals one at a time, but the ones that didn't already have the faces painted black, we already kind of took care of that on the ones that needed it. So there's a little thing I've come by to show now, and that is that we are going to add a little bit over the paint to the places where the paint may have covered the orange, where the may have covered the lines to the beak, and try to put little bitty lines into the work just right here. A couple of these Cardinals had sold at some previous events, so it comes a time when we decide to come a little bit of a longer way at making these things, show what we can do. I say that we've kind of painted these stuff as best as we could, and come along this way we're going to kind of turn this off here, and I say that it would be a great idea to come back around, and I say for what's underneath the cardinal, kinda on the belly, be able to go ahead and burn my initials in the year. Try to do it very small, because this can lay in more than one position, so try to make it so they come more to the back now, and work our way in with the letters and the numbers, initials in the year, JDP 2023. Got another little one to take here. We're going to add the same little type of work into this one as well. Put in the little initials and the little year. I wanted to say that this is a time when things could just be going a little well for a business in general, and of all things, I say we're going to have our expenses covered by all things. Hopefully these will sell and help us get there. But here's what I did, kind of painted the other ones from the other side. Something I'd like to tell you all as far as what's going to happen after we dye these is that after the dye dries out, we're going to put the I Choose Charity Bitterness label on the tail underside, and kind of, use super glue to laminate it like we do on all things. But this time we're going to wait until after the wood has been dyed, so that way we do not ruin the label and make the label red too. I'm going to come over here and see what containers I have in the shop to see whether I am ready to put these in the dye yet or not. Now, as for this little moment, there were a few things down here I kind of had to come down here and hunt up before I could use them, but it looks like we've got them now, and some of it has already been prepared. Some of it we might have to make a little more. Now, I tell you all that the last time I did these Cardinals, I only made enough red dye to really fill one container that was about this size, because I only dyed 2 out of all that I made and was only doing them one at a time. But this time around, as I'm demonstrating, I'm going to start doing 2 at a time, and do think that there's probably going to be a little bit more preparation involved in getting this ready. So I'm going to show what I do here is take the two Cardinals, put them into this empty plastic Folgers coffee can, and lay them in like this. And from this dye that I've done in the past, what I've done is I've taken denatured alcohol and this red dye solution and mixed the two together to make that. And you know, the darker you want the wood to be, the more drops of dye you have to put in the alcohol. And it all kind of also just as much depends on the measurement of the alcohol as well as the measurement of the dye together, you know. So that's a chemical thing. And what we're doing here is we're pouring it in. That was how we get this much in there. Kind of looks like the Cardinals are in there down like so firm that they wouldn't really float to the top. You want to make sure they don't float to the top. And while we're at it, we can also just make a little bit more dye to fill up the rest of this container here. And I've got some more denatured alcohol here and got more of the dye solution. We might try putting more of the two together into this little jar again so that we can kind of get a good enough, like, well, I got the wrong dye here. That's the black. We don't need that. But here is the red, the bright red, as it says, and put a little bit of the red in the jar, you know. And sometimes I've been using generous amounts lately because that's probably what we've been needing for doing the kind of work we've been doing lately. And kind of pour the denatured alcohol in with the dye and kind of make it of a dark little bit of a solution here. Turns out we only have so much denatured alcohol, but apparently we have enough to fill the container. And I will say that, of course, the last times around I've tried to do this outside of the shop because we didn't want sparks or anything to be hitting the denatured alcohol, or else it would be causing fires. That is how flammable the stuff is. But I think this time around I've decided to take a few things out of this crate that is underneath my table and just, while we're at it, gonna pour the rest of this dye into this container here. And perhaps I say, since we are getting the Cardinals floating a little bit more up to the top, might even just find another piece of wood to drop down upon them, or maybe even use, I don't know, that jar. It looks like it's not going to work, but you need to have something to steady it down a little more. So I would say, from I guess what I'm seeing here, we've probably got enough for them to soak. It's hard to find anything here to use as far as a piece of wood that we don't want to ruin, but I think I can find something around here to place down in there that won't get ruined as easily, that could at least hold the things down. And, well, anyway, I'd say that Here's a scrap we may not use. We'll see how that goes. It just is like a hard leftover piece of mimosa, turns out, from whatever I was using that for. And laying it on the top, it seems like it's going to keep the Cardinals under the liquid, and perhaps find another thing or two to help hold it down even more. And by the way, I think I have found another scrap of basswood that I think, given its shape, there's probably no way we can use it for anything special. So use it to kind of place down in the dye to hold everything down, and place the lid on top. And I say that hopefully that can keep the Cardinals underneath the dye, so it's going to work. And I'd say this piece of walnut here, we probably don't have any special need for that, so all of these can go down in to put some weight on the Cardinals and hold them under. And I'd say once it comes down to it, there's this little crate that I have under my table, and to prevent this stuff from getting any sparks hitting it, I will place it down in this crate under the table and lay it on there. Perhaps get a heavier piece of wood to go on top to kind of keep the lid from popping off, and put all this stuff away. And perhaps one day we'll come back another day to take these out and do whatever we need to do next. So that's the work for this video, I have to say, and I thank you all again for coming on. We've got a little mess to clean up here. We're going to take care of that, and hopefully see you all at the end. I had to find this top to this dye solution, so found that. Luckily got that taken care of, and this is all just stuff we get out of the way. And thank you again for watching.